Good evening, everyone. I call the January 17th, 2024 Apple Valley Planning Commission meeting to order. The first item of business tonight is the approval of the agenda. Any changes from staff?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. We have no changes for you at this time.
Commissioners?
Move approval.
Second.
Approval made by Commissioner Schindler, seconded by Commissioner Scanlon. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Decline, say A. Nay.
Nay.
Motion approved. Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda items. The consent agenda item are considered routine and will be enacted with a single motion, without discussion unless a commissioner or a citizen requests to have any item separately considered. It will then be moved to the land use action items for consideration. Can I have approval for minutes of December 20th, 2023 regular meeting?
Move approval.
Second.
That was approved by Commissioner Schindler, seconded by Commissioner Scanlon. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Brings us to number 4, public hearings. Tonight we do have one, and it is on Starbucks conditional use permit amendment. I will open the public hearing. So we now open the public hearing for agenda item number 4A. The affidavit of publication for the notice of public hearing is available for inspection in the planning department. Everyone wishing to speak at this public hearing should be sure to fill out the attendance roster, and please include your name and address so that accurate records can be maintained. We will begin the procedure with a brief presentation by city staff, followed by a presentation by the petitioner of the hearing. Upon the conclusion of the presentation, city staff will be asked to comment on the proposal's conformance with pertinent regulations and policies. After that, comments will be taken from the general public. And planner Alex Sharp.
Thank you, Chair. As noted, this is a conditional use permit for Starbucks drive-through. So it is the policy of the Planning Commission not to act on an item the evening of its public hearing. However, if the Planning Commission concurs, staff will be seeking action on this item. As you'll see through the review process, it's not a very substantive or big item. It's not the whole site plan like it was last time the PC reviews this. So we will be seeking action unless there are adverse comments from the public or from the Commission. The actual action this evening is to amend a conditional use permit, or sought this evening is to amend a conditional use permit that was issued back in 2017 for a drive-through window in conjunction with a Class 3 restaurant in the retail business zoning district. The site is 7525 147th Street West. It's the northwest corner of Cedar Avenue, 147th Street West. If you remember, this site redeveloped from a gas station into Starbucks. A planning commission reviewed this multiple times back in 2016 and 17 with approval in 2017. There were actual approvals done in 2016 as well, so this went through quite a process at that time when it came through. As a reminder, when it was a gas station site, there was a direct access onto 147th. In the past, there had been actually 2 accesses onto 147th. So the site has seen significant changes to not only the building, but also its access to public roadways. Right now, there are 2 access points off of Glenda Drive that serve the drive-through on the far east side of Starbucks. The site is guided for commercial and zoned retail business. Within the retail business zone, it is a conditional use that a drive-through be allowed in conjunction with a Class 3 restaurant. What the applicant is seeking to do is on the far right side of this site plan here that's also included in your packet is a red existing menu board location. They are looking to move it around 30 feet to the south to the black location shown today. The purpose for this move that the applicant has explained, and you'll see in a letter that's also attached to your report, is to allow for additional time from the ordering to the pickup window. Their claim is that by doing this, they will be able to essentially reduce the overall stacking times of vehicles because it allows their baristas and staff additional time to make the drinks and food ordered. In doing so, it should reduce some of the packed conditions that we have seen where stacking has gone out to Glenda in the past. One thing I would note on staff's review of this site is that while we have seen significant stacking on the site, sometimes impacting the southern tenant's sleep number, we have yet to really notice a significant backup onto Glenda or 147th. At most, a single vehicle. Graphic following this will show you kind of why. There is additional vehicle stacking built into this site by utilizing that northern drive as well. Code, this site was one of the very first that we really started looking at vehicle stacking, particularly for coffee. So a traffic study was done in conjunction with this project that found that we needed at least 13 vehicles stacked on a coffee site. What was unclear about that initial study was whether that 13 vehicles was taken from the drive window or from the order menu board. We've done both as projects have gone forward based upon the individual sites. In this one, the original plan, and you'll see this in a following drawing, was 13 vehicles from the window in the dedicated drive-through lane, rather than 13 vehicles on site, which is what we've also done from other locations. So in this case, there would still be 13, because it's not being affected at all, there would still be 13 vehicles that would be able to be stacked within the drive-through lane. This amendment will not change that, and therefore, from its original approvals, should stand to be in compliance with those original approvals. It does change a little how the staff has reviewed from the menu board in future cases. In a very worst case scenario, the site can still stack 17 vehicles from that menu board. That doesn't include the additional 7 vehicles that from the menu board up to the window that would also be able to be fit. So the site has significant stacking despite being small in size. With the approvals that the city gave with variances and such, we were actually able to get a significant amount of stacking to this site that we haven't been able to see in some of the future approvals for coffee drive-through. This is the original site plan. This shows that 13 vehicles I was referring to. It's 13 vehicles very clearly from the pickup window. This was what was approved in 2017. The 2016 site plan was when the Planning Commission initially reviewed this. City Code does provide a little guidance on what the stacking needs to be, but not where from. In the case of Class 2 restaurants, we would require 6 stacking spaces for each drive-in window. This is a Class 3 restaurant, so there is actually no set requirement in code. However, conditional use permits allow the city to place additional conditions on a conditional use permit and make them site-specific. So staff has been hesitant to bring forward a performance standard that may lock staff, the city, and the commission into not being able to consider site-specific conditions because we were trying to create a more generalized ordinance. I do have a draft resolution contained within your report. Our crack attorney did catch that I changed our action to be slightly incorrect. It should be the recommending an approval of a conditional use permit amendment at 7525 147th Street West, not amending that resolution. So you can use the action that's up on the screen rather than the one that's in the packet if that was the planning commission's wishes. We do have an applicant present this evening if you have any questions for them. And then it's a quick summary to that resolution. Essentially what that draft will do is supersede the other 2017 resolution containing all of the conditions contained therein, adding 2 more to make sure that the city is covered by having some conditions for if the stacking were to impact traffic on public roadways, that the conditional use permit could be revisited.
Thanks, Alex. I have a question, and I don't know if I should ask you this or the applicant. After reviewing it, it was the peak hour of 7 to 8 a.m. on Fridays. So is the request to move that order sign just for that one morning, or do they have other issues with stacked cards?
Chair Kurtz, no, this would be a permanent change to where the menu board is located.
Right, but is it due because of the Friday mornings?
I would say from seeing the site as I drive in every morning, there's stacking, considerable stacking most days of the week. That said, I even decided to try, during this review process, just drive by the site a couple of times before 8 a.m. to try to see what we're actually dealing with. We're not observing that it's going out to Glenda. Traditionally, if you're seeing a problem, and this goes for any day of the week, as soon as you get a vehicle that is fearful of getting rear-ended on Glenda, they start to pull in really tight and close or go up and go around, and now you get a fun zipper maneuver where they don't always like working well together, but that's an on-site issue and less concerning for the city than what it is for the applicant.
So the question would be is why not close off that entrance? I understand for the sleep number, but why not close that entrance off completely and use that other roundabout?
So I think, Chair Kurtz, I think that staff has questioned that as well. I will end up probably deferring a little bit to our city engineer, assistant city engineer who's present. But in summary, speaking with the city engineer, it may actually inhibit site traffic to close that entrance. It was also one of the reasons why I chose to bring up that the site has already seen 2 closed entrances onto public roadways. It's a pretty significant alteration to a site to close an entrance like that. Additionally, I suspect that Starbucks would withdraw their application prior to doing that because it's not going to be something that the site would benefit from for the other tenants for themselves.
Or could somebody go out there with cones, orange cones at the time of peak hour or something? I mean, they do that at other places.
I think with
Direct
that,
traffic.
I will defer to the city or to the assistant city engineer on how effective that may be.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We could, as I understand it, we could write something like that into the conditional use that maybe they'd have to have some advanced monitoring, similar to like a crossing guard almost, but for their drive-through. What the city staff kind of arrived at from an engineering perspective is there's the existing conditions that we've arrived at that have some amount of risk of stacking onto public right-of-way, and the net benefit, if you will, of closing that extra drive entrance, which we feel would negatively impact the site because, now we're reducing, the ingress and egress to the site as a whole for one peak hour, if you will, per week, as well as, maybe the other side of the coin is, like Alex did, and he kind of hit on, is why not just write into the conditional use permit amendment that if traffic is functioning worse than it is now, we have the ability to review it at that point and maybe not hamstring the project right out of the gate.
Okay.
So from an engineering perspective, we're pretty comfortable with what has been presented from that angle.
Okay, thank you. And we think by just moving that sign 30 feet is going to resolve some of these issues.
Chair Kurtz, I don't know that the applicant has stated that it will resolve the issues. What they have stated is it will reduce the overall time that they occur. They've been doing this. I was just speaking with the applicant representative before the meeting. I think he said that he's done around 50 of these. So this is something that Starbucks is doing in a lot of locations. If they didn't work, they wouldn't spend the money to do it in a lot of locations.
True. I just wonder if there's been complaints from Sleep Number at all.
So, Chair Kurtz, I'm glad that you mentioned that. I have spoken with Sleep Number. Well, they certainly have complaints about it backing up from time to time. Their hours are off-peak for this. So they don't open until 10 o'clock on any day of the week. And by that time, the high peak is usually done.
Right.
Their only comments or concerns expressed from speaking with them were actually about the board's placement in
Noise?
regards to their advertising, which is not a pertinent portion for the city to be able to review. We can't get into tenant advertising concerns. So if they had major concerns with that, we advise them to take that up with the landlord.
So the noise from the speakers wouldn't affect that company?
They
or
were not
business?
concerned about that.
Okay.
They did not express a concern to me about that.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Scanlon?
Madam Chair, you already answered some of the questions I was thinking. I kind of thought about that same too with blocking off the initial entrance there, but the big thing I see with that after looking at it more and with comments is also with access for emergency vehicles in and out. That would really, I think, gonna make it more difficult on them, and just for this short period of time, it sounds like. And as far as with the fact that there's just two tenants, I guess it's kind of in this particular situation, kind of the perfect marriage in the fact that this peak time is, don't interfere with each other for the most part. Sounds like occasionally there might be some, but be interesting to get some comments from the applicant on the science behind what they're doing here to understand that a little better as far as how that moves, how that's going to improve things for that. Alex, do you have a picture how that ends up, where the sign ends up looking from like Cedar Avenue, or how that?
Chair Kurtz, Commissioner Scanlon, no, I do not have a elevation drawing of where that would change.
That's fine. All right. Thanks, Alex.
The original building elevations didn't have this location noted. It was just of the building, which is very typical.
And what I noticed, I think, when I looked at it, just like from Google, is that the signage kind of falls in the windows for Sleep Number that they have. But, I mean, I guess that's like you said, it's a tenant concern, not a, from our perspective, is how it gets placed. Placement is based on the stacking, so.
Chair Kurtz, Commissioner Scanlon, Sleep Number's windows are faux windows. They're real glass.
Oh.
But they're boxed.
Oh, okay.
You can't physically see out them from inside.
And that becomes a moot point?
So they
Fool me.
They're sleeping.
Fool me.
go about 6-8 inches deep and
Okay.
create a box.
All right.
So
Okay.
Didn't know that.
Thanks, Alex.
Any other commissioners have any questions for Alex? Okay. Can we have the applicant come up?
Hi,
Hi.
Connor McCoy. Nice to meet you. I'm with Kimley Horn. Do I need to state my address?
I don't think so. Does he have to say his address?
You can, if you could, just state your business address, if you will.
I'm here on behalf of Starbucks to go through the conditional use permit amendment. I did not prepare anything today. Alex pretty much summed up everything for me.
So we're putting you on the spot.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you this. Can you answer any of our questions prior to Alex's discussion?
If you could restate them, I will do my best.
Sure. Well, I guess my first question would be is that you've had no complaints from Sleep Number in regards to moving the sign with noise and all that kind of stuff?
We have not. We reached out to the landlord, and he was the one that was in contact with the other tenants.
Okay.
And we got approval from that landlord in order to move this order point.
And I guess our next question would be is explain how that will differentiate between how much time you spend with each customer by moving the sign back.
So the reason behind doing this is to create more time from the order point to the window, which in turn gives more time to the baristas and other workers to prepare orders, which will allow for less time for cars to sit at the window, and in return lower the amount of waiting time that people and customers have to wait.
So by having the sign where it is now, it impacts the quickness of the cars getting to the window, whereas 30 feet back, it's going to slow up the movement. So therefore, I was reading that you guys spend about 1:23 on each customer, and this is hoping to get it underneath 30 seconds, 40 seconds or something.
Yeah, that is the goal of moving this order point. The reason why we chose this spot on the site was there's no other real good place to place it besides this location. This is kind of the max we can go from the window with that order point. So this was the best fit for us, and that's why it's only like 30 feet. So
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions for the applicant? No? Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Meaning that we don't have anybody in attendance for the public hearing, I am going to close the public hearing. If there are no further comments, I will close this public hearing. It is the policy of the Planning Commission not to act on an item on the same night as its public hearing. The Planning Commission will weigh all comments and information received tonight in its deliberations at future meetings. This item will continue to appear on future Planning Commission agendas until a recommendation on the petition can be forwarded to the City Council, unless somebody would like to make a motion tonight.
Madam Chair, I recommend approval of an amendment to a conditional use permit at 7525 147th Street West, subject to the conditions within the draft resolution.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Scanlon, seconded by Commissioner Schindler. Are there any discussions? No? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on, we have no land use action items tonight. I will let other business, let Tim Benetti take over that, but I would like to just make a remark on one of our commissioners that is going to be no longer with us, and that is Keith Diekman. He signed on in the year 2005, so we had the pleasure of his service for 17, 18 years. He brought a lot to our board, and he will be greatly missed by many of us. Many of us have worked with him for many years. Keith, if you're watching, we wish you luck, and we would like to say thank you for all your years of service, and you will be missed. Tim.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the Commission, your upcoming meetings will be on Wednesday, February 7, 2024. Also, the following Wednesday, February 21st. We do have an item scheduled for the February 7th meeting. And just a reminder, the Starbucks, since it was approved tonight, conditional use permit, that will be presented on the council meeting of February 8th, 2024. So kind of unusual. We have a planning commission and a council meeting back to back. It's one of those few that happens that month. So it will also keep you informed on where we're at with the process of hiring for or getting a new planning commission member selected. And we hope to have more information for you probably at the annual meeting, which is scheduled for the one of those February meetings. I can't remember if it's the first or second one, but we'll figure it out before we get there.
Would you like to introduce our new member?
I would love to. If you haven't met her yet, our new associate planner is Sydney Strowing. Sydney is very right out of school, out of U of M, and she is coming recently from City of Owatonna, where she was a planning technician, and she is now our newest planning associate planner, and she's getting to know the systems very well. She's working well, playing well with others, except for the boss. But other than that, she's got a very, very cute little kid, newborn, 5-6 month Augie,
Correct.
and just met her fiance today as well. So
Congrats.
we really welcome her. It was a long, drawn-out process to get her hired, but we got it done. So feel free to come over and say hi to her, and you're going to see her more often in the future.
Good. We welcome you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, can I have a motion?
Move for adjourn.
Second?
Motion made by Commissioner Schindler, seconded by Commissioner Scanlon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This meeting has adjourned.